Hello, and here we are in the after show afterthoughts with my Larry Pelligrini. Here's Larry, and we were just talking about all the people that we knew in common. We talked about Gary Canada, and we were just talking about how we just connected all the way through. It's so far. Gary Canada, I remember when he was one of the first people who bought downtown in the not the iron district. Well, I guess it was the meat packing district when they
Yeah.
started making all of those beautiful, I mean, those condos, those apartments. I remember he had an Oscar party, and Carl and I went to one of his Oscar parties,
Yeah.
and he had a whole Elizabeth Taylor room. I said, Gary Canada.
That's right. Yes. That was the year he said, Chariots of Fire.
Yes,
I
yes,
think maybe I was there with you.
yes. I think you were there. I think. Oh,
So upset.
Gary Canada. Oh, but I mean, when I think about, we were talking about on the show, when I think about all the different kinds of theaters that can exist, and the theater that can exist now until the all of us can exist together. We just have to support one another. I just really do believe that. I believe that there are kinds of there are pieces of theater that people enjoy. Some people enjoy theater pieces more than others, you know.
Yeah.
But the theater's opening up, and people are trying to go back in there, and they're buying the tickets, and that's good. And they have another alternative that when they do that, and they can't get to the theater, then they can do the other. But one does not cancel out the other. Because there's virtual theater, I don't believe that it cancels out in-person theater because it's a whole different entity. I believe,
It
it
is.
really
It
is.
is. And, I have always been in my career kind of that stepchild, that did the weird plays and, that then ran for 25 years.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
And,
yes.
and I know that from working with online theater that it may be at this point the stepchild to live in-person theater,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still related and has its value,
Yes.
and I think will be appreciated as more as it matures.
I think so. I think we're
I
in the
believe
throgs of now. I mean, with the panic of trying to stay alive, of trying to be, dealing with the levels of the disease, and how many shots are we going to take and everything else like that, and then people scrambling to have their jobs, to the economy. And that is another thing that we have to realize, is that the the economic basis of what drove the theater before, it's different now because a lot of people haven't worked in a while, so they don't have that kind of money. So we're hoping that they'll build themselves up so they can go and see the in person. And while they are building up, we keep art alive by saying you can see some of this too, and then go to the in person when your funds are there, or the in person has some reasonable prices so that people can come and see it. It's all about building it up together and going forward together, I think.
I do believe that, and I hope, and of course, I would hope that one thing that doesn't come back are the $1,000 tickets.
Yes. I think that's what makes it an elitist kind of situation where people don't feel comfortable. They feel that they sometimes being discriminated against, or it's just not what they want to have the experience, but it's not geared toward them. It's geared toward the very elite, and that doesn't push the arts. The whole point is to push the arts for everybody, to make it universal. You know,
I
there
believe
might be some very special moments that people do that, but to have the average ticket be $700 or $500 is hard for a lot of people to even phantom. Used to be you could have an evening dinner and maybe have a drink, and it would be $100 night. You know,
yes.
all together. So we need to recapture something like that, but make it, maybe a little bit more expensive than that, because everything goes up, but not so that you have to mortgage your house in order to pay that American Express bill, you know.
No,
Yeah.
it's, but and I have to say that I love going into a theater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is, it's
There's
it's a
nothing like it.
no,
There is absolutely walking into a theater takes my breath away. Whether
yes,
I'm walking into it to go to backstage to work or whether I'm walking in it to be a part of the audience, it takes my breath away. It's such a ceremony of it. The the entr'acte, the overture, the everything as it opens up and the tuning and I take everything in because I've been on both sides. And I
hmm
know what everybody's doing backstage while they're getting ready, and I'm just very and I'm praying for them. As Bea Richards used to say, "Oh, when she would get a script, oh, I hope I like this." You know, I say, "Oh, I hope this is going to be fabulous." That's my hope. My hope is every time I go to the theater that it is fabulous. It's just one of the things that I
that
really love. I really love.
and just that, when you, especially when you go to Broadway, to comprehend the amount of people that have made it so that you can be there. And it's not
Exactly.
just the actors, it's not just the people in that theater,
No,
it's the, it's
it's the canvas of everything. Everything, and
Braver making a poster,
exactly,
you
exactly.
know.
The people who take the message when you got the audition, you know,
Absolutely.
all of those things. It's such a wonderful experience, and then we have to realize that Broadway is not the only theatrical experience. That it's off Broadway and off Broadway, and the things grow from there, and how wonderful things are in all of those levels, and we want all of those levels to come back, and we love all of that because going into every one of those theaters is a wonderful experience.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
so I
They're like
it's
churches for me. I mean, feel, I just feel so spiritually uplifted when I have that experience. There's
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I haven't been to the theater for a while. I've been doing this Zoom, and I do, and people ask about, my in-person performances, and I do want to do in-person performances, and I do want to do cabaret and all of those things. But we have to find out how it's going to be done,
absolutely,
and
have to be
it's,
able to do that.
I mean, and then it will be done. We just have to stay prayerful and hopeful and have faith that everything's not going to come together immediately, but we have to have patience. Some of the shows will do well, some may not do as well, but still we need to have patience and live with them. Those people who are going back to work are the same people who were working before when the pandemic started. So then those jobs are great, and then they need to create more jobs for the other people who weren't working before. You
Yes,
know.
yes.
So.
And I think that it gives us, when it's taken away from us, we have a different kind of appreciation when it comes back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You do.
It-
I mean, and you see, oh, but there is a growth. There should be a growth. We should be moving forward, not backwards.
mhm.
So, all of it is instead of going, let's go back to what we have. Let's revisit what we had and bring it to us how we can utilize it now, and all of the things that entails.
Yeah,
And that's important. And that's more important to me than anything else because it is the promotion of the arts, and it's what my life is. I mean, I love the creativity of it. I
and,
really do.
and being here and knowing that this is available for people to see, doing this, it's entertainment.
It is.
You know,
It is. I don't know where this particular program or medium will take me, but there are people who write and say every Wednesday at 7 o'clock I get my cocktail and I pour it in my glass and I sit up and I listen to the stories and I think, God, thank you for that. I do. I hope there's never a time where I can't make that 7 o'clock Wednesday, because I'm doing something else. I'll tape it somewhere else, but it'll be on at 7 o'clock Wednesday.
well, yeah, you'll be able to do that. But the what I've loved about this radio program is, and I talked about this a little bit before, but historically it's so important because you're capturing memories that are fast. These are memories that are going to go because when we can't talk about them anymore, they're gone.
I know. Well, the theater is like that. You know, it evaporates. Every performance goes. You
Yes.
know, it's captured sometimes in film, sometimes it's captured well, sometimes not so well. Uh, but but the actual performances, it's in the moment. You're right there, and then afterwards, it's there's no evidence of it at all. You walk, you walk down Broadway, going home. You got your stage makeup on and some glasses on, and everybody kind of knows, oh, that's a Broadway performer walking home there, and and it's done. And now you prepare yourself for the next one, and there's no record of it. And I just wanted to have the stories, and the stories by people who we don't hear the stories from all the time. There are 15, 20 people that we know their stories, we know them, and I'm proud to know them. I'm proud to have them know, what I'm doing and everything. But they're going to be recorded on many, many different kinds of shows.
Mhm.
I want the ones where somebody's not going to necessarily uh, ask them a question. They're not going to hear their stories. And these wonderful stories that people have, responded to, they just go, I just didn't know that that happened. I didn't know that, you knew this person like that and that. Da, da. I said, yeah, there's a lot going on that people don't know because only selected people are viewed to represent us in the business.
That's
But,
true.
you know,
Absolutely.
I want more of a selection so people can see that there's more of us than they think.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what's
that's
important.
very important.
Yeah.
And also, the what has happened to me as I've been listening to your show and is that I just get I remember that time.
Yeah.
And
Me
we
too.
will never have that specific time again.
No, no, those, the time when I could walk down Broadway and I would see all of these wonderful plays that were happening and know that at 11 o'clock I could go to a restaurant and sit with people from other plays and wave at them. People like Dick Cavett would come to the theater and sit around and talk to us. All of those kinds of, that just, it's not going to happen
No.
anymore. It's just not going to happen anymore. Um, it's if you get back and you get on the boards, as they say, as Lloyd would say when he comes, you're on the boards. You get on the boards. It's a different feeling, though. The
Mm.
people who were there are not there anymore. The Frank Hatches who taught me how to walk on the stage, the Bernard Johnsons who taught me how to work the material, all of them, I'd love for them to, if they were here now, they'd be sitting where you are, and I'd be talking to them about how they helped me, learn how to do they would say, Bernard Johnson would say, you better work that dress like Vivian. Vivian works that dress. I said, well, I'm not Vivian. Okay. And having had Vivian on, and she's so wonderful and so beautiful, and
Yes.
and having all of that, capturing that, but not having done it soon enough so that I could capture all of those people that they've gotten away. There's a sadness about it.
Yes. Yes.
There is a sadness about it.
I, I so wanted to bring my mother and all of her cousins together this year to meet on Zoom. And we
Yeah,
just didn't do it because people, they're older and the people, and now she's gone and we
yeah,
can't do that.
yeah.
And that's why this, whatever we record, however we record it, we can continue to go back and look at it.
Yep.
And it's a great,
That's it's important because it gets storytelling is very important. Verbal history, very important, but oral history. But when you are not there to do it anymore, it dissipates in the air. And so we need to have something, you know. And I'm hoping that there are people who will understand how important this is, you know.
I
And
believe,
I'm going to keep on doing it until they really do understand how important it is,
I believe so.
you know. It's important. along with all the other things that I'm doing that make me crazy and make me need to have an assistant. And I'm going to say it on air. Someone has a business student. I need an assistant. No one in show business. I want a business student because I want to teach them
You can
business.
find that. Are there colleges near where you are
There
living?
are, and I've tried it. I've tried it through Arts Quest, and I've tried it, and they last for a minute, but they get distracted
Yeah.
because the ones that really do want to do it, they come there. They'll say that they're business, but they're very quietly want to be in show business,
Yeah.
And no, I want someone who wants to be in business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear that because it's very important. And to be in the business, you gotta just get up and do the work.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work. I mean, that's why along with this and the other projects that I have, it's a lot of work to do and to respect the people who expect to get the calls back and receive the calls well and be have the information. It's not just uh, putting on makeup and beautiful clothes and being glamorous and going and host something, which I do, but there's a business side of it, and I think that should that should be one of the things that is handed over to people also to understand our business. Yeah.
I agree with that. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to put virtual arts together is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to share my knowledge beyond directing. All of these people know me as a director, but the knowledge that especially that I've learned from working with Paradise Activity Company
Mm-hmm.
in that we have over 100 people working in 21 different locations.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, and I don't manage all of them, but how do you manage the managers and how do you help encourage them so that they can take your message back out to those people? Those are the kinds of things that I think sometimes people take those things for granted. And this I have a whole, besides the fact that I have a digital theater company, I have a digital business.
Yes, I know. I mean, I've heard. I want the audience to know that we have had meetings where Larry has been in the airport with his computer
My mask.
and your mask. Um,
Right.
so I mean, I don't think we have. I have not yet met anyone in virtual arts personally yet, but that goes for all the other organizations that I belong to because I've started belonging to them during the pandemic. So it's all been virtual. Some of them are opening up, but it's still going to be virtual for me for a while. I'm not comfortable with all of that, to be very
Yeah,
frank.
I
Yet.
understand that too.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
You know, but let's hope that more people get vaccinated
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that we can somehow learn to care about people outside of our own selves. I mean, listen, I wanted the vaccine for me, but I also wanted the vaccine so that I'm not taking it to other people.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
well,
there's
it's understanding that and the science of it, but we hope that that message does reach people eventually, so that it can shorten the stay of where we are now, the struggle of where we are now. Because the
I think
more all of us get on one plane, I think the easier it will be. But we'll see.
yeah, well,
We
one
will
plane
see. We will see.
is
That's the one thing I've learned. A lot of people would say, my dear loving friend Amelia, whose scarf I wear tonight, used to say, "Oh, I can't wait till next year." I said, "McQueen, slow down, because I don't know what next year is bringing." And I say that I don't know what next season is bringing. So I'm going to try to live one moment at a time. And
Mhm.
those moments are, they're filled with a lot of loveliness and sometimes some ugliness, but just one moment at a time. And we'll see where it gets us.
Absolutely.
So
Your
much
show
is
about
going on.
next week sounds fascinating, by the way.
Oh, Robin J. Miller is a wonderful artist. I remember she did a postcard of something for me, and it had a collage of the Cotton Club and all these other wonderful places. She's so very, very gifted, but also she's a wonderful teacher. And I have a friend, Deborah Fudge and I, who Deborah Fudge-Rim and I went to high school together, and it was through her that I met Robin. And she's got stories about how Robin would take her students to the museum, and what decorum she created. I can't wait to get into that next week. It's going to be fabulous. You know, it's a whole issue. Children have to be taught how to behave. You know,
They do.
it's not just throwing them. You know, say, okay, well, we're going to give you some money, and we're going to, now you'll be able to go someplace. No, you have to teach them how to go to that place.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. In fact, Juan and I went to the museum. I think we were in either here in Portland or we were in Seattle, and there was some lady who was so loud. She was yelling to somebody in one of the other little chambers. We were in the Impressionist gallery. So I said, excuse me, but you know, there's kind of a rule that really isn't a rule, but you know, there's this is supposed to be peaceful. And she said, are you reprimanding me? And I said, no, I'm just sharing with you the knowledge that I have because I hope it will inspire you. But
Exactly.
and then later, of course, I thought, really, why should I do that? But that is somebody who was not taught how to, I think, how to
That's the
behave.
thing. Yep. Oh, see, I just got from talking about Deborah Brim. She's listened tonight and loved hearing the stories from your guest. Look at
Oh,
that. Yes, 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 yes. People text me all the time. They don't, they listen, and there's, oh, she's got a whole long thing. So, um, but I think one of the challenges that I face with the few diversity organizations that I belong to, is I have said it. I'm calling a meeting this week that organizations that try to help don't become a part of the problem, that they stay a part of the solution. And by doing that, to think that all I have to do is say, okay, these disadvantaged children, we're going to give them some advantages. We're going to give them a program. And here's a music program, you can have it. Here's an arts program, you can have it. We're going to pay you the money for it, give you the money for it. And then what? And then 6 months later, if don't include the instruction, people come back and they go, "Oh, that didn't work because it fell apart. The kids didn't know, they didn't act right." Well, you have to, along with it, not get personally involved, but you have to make an investment in teaching the children how to behave within these programs. They don't know.
right.
They, those that has been prohibited from them. It's been prevented from them sharing in that. That's why they were disadvantaged. So to give them the advantage is not just to throw something at them, but to not get overly involved, but to make an investment in them learning how to utilize what you give them. And if you don't want to do that, then don't give them anything at all, because you're not helping. You're part of the problem. You are
I,
part of the
I,
problem.
I love that you're saying that because I agree with it very, very much.
Yeah.
And I really want to, with virtual arts, because we're doing the holiday camp at Christmas time. And, I want a certain amount the, the slots to be for disadvantaged kids who can't
Yes.
afford to come.
Yes, exactly.
But they're, they have to follow the rules.
Exactly. And they have to be taught the rules.
Right.
You
So
know?
there has to
Yes.
be an introduction about this is
Yes,
the
yes. This
expectation.
it's a multi-step program. This diversity. It's not just, okay, we're gonna just give you some. Oh, you didn't have it before. Well, now we're gonna give it to you now. No, you get. It's just like, God bless. It's just how I interpret slavery. All of a sudden, people were given freedom, but they weren't told how to behave in freedom. They had always been enslaved. So people thought, oh, well, they just want to be enslaved all their lives. No, they just didn't know how to be free because they had been in a system that had enslaved them all their lives.
Yes, absolutely.
So if we understand that that's the same kind of thing, because you don't have the knowledge, then you have to make somewhat of an investment, because you made the investment initially to keep them out. So make the investment to bring them in.
Absolutely.
Don't get me started, I don't. All right, I'm staying away from the politics of it, but that's how I feel about the arts. If you're going to support the arts, if you're going to contribute to these young people or to anyone, you have to understand what you're giving them may be new. So you must accompany what you give them with instruction
I believe that. I think it's very,
and the
very.
discipline and all of those things that come along with that. And then in a year or so, if it doesn't work, I say to you, you've done your part. And if they don't get it, but I tell you, I have faith in all these young people. You tell them, they'll get it. But if
Yeah.
you don't tell them, they're going to run wild because they've never been told not to run
Right.
wild.
And also to try and tell them in a language that they'll understand.
Yes. Well, listen, I will say children and pets are very similar. They crave discipline. They do. They want someone to tell them, well, now I want you to sit down and I'm going to give you this book. And you see what this book looks like when I'm giving it to you? When I see this book in 6 months, I want it to look exactly like that. I don't know what you have to do. Find a plastic, find a newspaper. I don't care. Cover that book. Find a place in your house where the dog won't get it, where spaghetti won't get on it. I don't care what you got to do. But I want to see that book looking like that in 6 months when I come back here. It'll look like that.
It will.
You're giving them a job. You're giving them a responsibility, something that they didn't have before. Respect to the child. The children they will show us that they can do it, but we don't respect their intelligence. We just throw things at them and think, all of a sudden they're going to know how the heck are they don't know?
Yeah, they're not going to.
No, and you tell them. And it's not reprimanding, it's not yelling at them, but you say it because I want you to know, because when you know how to take care of that book, then you'll know how to take care of yourself in society. You know how to go and apply for a job. You know what you're supposed to look like, how you're supposed to articulate yourself. You're teaching. All of that comes from just that little bit of knowledge that they know how to do. That's what we're asking. That's
Yeah,
what.
I think it's great, Lynnie, that you have that understanding too, because there is a lot of money. Money is, there's so much money.
Oh, yes. And I see money going to organizations. There are people who have told me, well, I got the list and I clicked off the names of the organizations that I liked. And
Hmm.
I thought, and I gave them $1,000 a piece. And I went, oh my Lord. Okay. Or my company gave them $5,000, because they had $25,000 to give out. And I'm saying, so along with that, what are they going to do with the money? I don't know. I said, no, 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 no. There's a responsibility with that you find out what the company does, what they're going to do with the money, that they come back and tell you, you know.
Hmm.
There's so
Hmm.
much. And
Yeah,
and we can learn this through the arts.
we can learn through this. A
We
friend
can.
of mine, I've talked to you about him before. His name is Larry Ritzer, and he applied for a grant during this time from, I think it's AARP.
Mm,
And he's a theater director. He lives in Hilo. He's
hmm
the person that had worked for years with he had worked with many people in New York. But um, so he received this money, and then what he did in Hilo, because he was supposed to do beauty in a production of The Producers, but he can't do it in the theater because Hawaii is very difficult. So he instead went to the mayor and he got a piece of land that's not being used, and they're going to allow him to have that land. And then he's creating a space outdoor with a stage that can be locked up. It also can be in a trailer that can travel.
hmm
He
hmm
can continue to do theater in this time. And
Yes.
I thought that it really was wonderful that he was able to take that in. He can go out to these kids now, and he has the story of what it takes to, this is how you make something happen.
Well, but also what he's smart enough to realize that what I'm doing is that I'm adjusting myself to where it is now. When I got the money, maybe, or when I applied for it, we were in a different place. Well, I got the money now. That doesn't mean because I'm going to try to do the same thing, because I can't, because it's not physically or healthy for me. But let me be creative in this business where we are creators. That's what we are. And Let me find something that can apply to what can bring the arts to my audience now. Oh, I can build something that's mobile, that's out in the fresh air, that they can come to and watch, and therefore they'll feel there's a comfortableness. So I'm thinking about the arts and my audience and my actors at the same time.
Yeah. And
Genius.
yeah, and he's gonna
Not so much, I mean,
take that art right to the people.
yes, right there. Yes, 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 yes. I mean, really, it's just but there's so much money. There's so much money going everywhere, and I would love to funnel it so that there needs to be an organization that you can send the money to, and then they will connect you with the organization and then oversee the whole usage of this money, that so that the children benefit from it and move forward, progress.
It exists, Lenny. It's called godly entertainment.
ah, I mean, I just think that there's so much that we can do. There really is so much that we can do, and there's so many people. As last week when Leah Bass said, she said, and she said, and this may be a bad thing, and it's not a bad thing. The superstars of our time now are the sports people. They are. And I think that they are wonderful. I know the discipline. They're soldiers, just like the rest of us. We are disciplined soldiers. And when they're not working, they want to enjoy themselves. But I also would love for them to turn around, and many of them have. But what we don't have is a stature in which we can come and present pieces, especially people of color, about ourselves, where we are not limited to writing a certain way so the theater will accept our piece, because I've got to put a certain kind of character in this piece, otherwise this theater won't do it. There just needs to be a place where you can submit your work and your work is going to be done. There's a competent staff there, and because it is about our history, there's no place like that in America for us. None. And it doesn't take millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. You start small, very small. Oh, if I could just be in a room with one of them for 5 minutes. Oh. you know, um, just so that they can understand what we need in the arts. There's so many wonderful writers who, we'll never know they're writing because they won't compromise. They want to write a certain way. They want to write about our histories a certain way. They have a certain voice, and they won't change it just to have their work done. It's more important for them to maintain that. Those people who do, that's fine, but there should be a place for those people who don't want to, and we don't have that place yet. And I would love in my lifetime to see that happen. Just the beginnings of it, just small to grow.
You can do that.
I don't know. I don't know any sports people. I don't know any, I just hear, I hope they hear the voice. I hope they, one day hear what I'm saying, because it is needed. It is needed. And it's needed by someone who really does care about the arts and the history and the oral history and, the video history and the in-person history that we need to, to have. To
Listen,
make American theater. American theater.
We have all these, we finally have, we have sports figures who are gay now, who are coming out.
Yes, who are coming out. Yes, who are
I'm
gay.
sure
Yes.
one of them loves musical theater or theater. We got to
I hope they hear this. And, Lynnie Godfrey, call me, LynnieGodfrey.com, www.LynnieGodfrey.com.
Chicken, everybody, okay?
But I think it's needed. It's needed. And there's so many wonderful, talented people who, would be so perfect to work in that atmosphere and just be free to create, just the freedom of it. The arts should be free, and it's not free. It's not free. I've learned that. I love it.
Yeah.
But I know it's a
New York,
limitation.
New York lost its freedom. And,
Yes.
that's why regional theater is so important. And even, what we're doing here in virtual theater. But when I was, in the 80s, New York was free. You
Yes,
could
it
have
was.
any idea that you wanted,
You
and
could do it. You
you could
saw
do
it
it.
there. I mean, theaters were there were theaters where you could go and you could see work that was it was magnificent. My eyes would pop open. I'd go, "Wow, they're doing that here." Woo. I mean, there were no limitations. Now it's so expensive. If it doesn't say a certain thing, if it's not done by a certain person, if it's not cast a certain way, you won't see it.
Right.
You just won't see it, and that's not the theater. That's not arts. That's not anything.
Right.
That's
Right.
not that's not what it is. We need to go back to the freedom that I got into the business to experience.
I
Because when
agree.
I got into the business, boy, I worked all over the place and did all kinds of things, and the possibilities were endless.
Yep.
And then they were shut down.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and that's
But
partly that's partial. That's a lot of that, of course, is due to, I think, advertising, and so much of it needs it. I just remember so many times going out to a pitch meeting and somebody saying to me, you know, but that doesn't have this in it.
yes,
When
yes.
we took
That's what we're fighting. Well, I don't, what I'm missing hearing this. It's like, no, you're not missing anything. It doesn't have to have it in every play.
Mhm.
There needs to be a neutral place where if it's missing a creative element, that's something. But if you're just missing an image that you need to see, that's not. Then you're censoring our art.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know.
They when we did the pilot for Tony and Tina's wedding, we actually did two pilots, which was rare for a piece. The first one Christopher Guest directed. We did it at Castle Rock, and it we used the whole entire original company, but then and Fox was the I guess Castle Rock was the production company, but it was for Fox. We were working with somebody named Joe Davola, but it came back to us after that pilot, said we're going to give you another opportunity, but it's just too Italian. Well, it's about Italians. No, it's just too Italian. So we of course listened, and we worked with. I don't know if you ever worked with Jamie Widows. Did you ever work with Jamie?
No, no.
Director, but
Mm-mm.
Jamie's wonderful, and he directed. Fred Barron helped us write that, and then Jamie Widows directed it. But and it got to write that to the very, very end, and of course it didn't go. But the next year they did Sopranos.
There you go.
I thought,
There you go. There you go.
that's too Italian. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you can't get more Italian than that. I mean, I think
Right.
that I think that they're actually thinking about bringing it back now. I thought it's
Well, there's a movie coming that has his son in it.
sun in it. Yes, that's what
Yeah.
it is. Okay.
So anyway, listen, it's fascinating to talk to you. We were in LA at the same exact time
I
because
don't.
I had my deals. I mean, I worked with Castle Rock and Fox starting in 90 to 95.
My gosh, I was there from 87 to 97.
Yeah. And so,
Gosh.
and I was on the Fox lot.
Mm. Do you know how many times I went on that lot? Oh my gosh. You're kidding.
Yeah. And because we
Was the president? Oh, who was the president then? What's his name?
well, was it Peter Chernin?
No, before Peter. He just built the island in New
Yeah.
York.
Yeah. Yes, and Barry.
Barry, yes.
Yes, and he would come in every once in a while to a meeting.
Mm-hmm,
Peter would
mm-hmm,
be in the meeting, Joe Davola, and Joe was hysterical, but they would pop their head in and
mm-hmm,
they'd
mm-hmm.
whisper to each other. I'm sure they weren't talking about what we were doing, but they, you know,
Yeah. Oh, I remember. Oh, yeah. I wasn't. Oh, I wasn't black enough.
I'm sure you heard that.
Oh no, they were they were kind, but nah, it's too glamorous. I said, well, I can work without make. Listen, this is not a whole lot of makeup on. It's like some people have a cake. This is 7 minutes. If it's more than 7 minutes, I don't play. I ain't got no time. I said, yeah. Well, but it's your carriage. It's your. I said, okay. Well, I can't. Hey.
Well, you can't do anything about who you are.
No, well, what's interesting, and I'll say this: when I tell people I was born in Women's Hospital, which is 109th Street. in Manhattan. It's just no longer there. In fact, I saw a picture of it in an old episode of The Naked City with Susan Oliver, and I went, "There's the hospital I was born in," because they tore it down a little bit after I was born. I think I got the chance to see it once or twice. But my mother, when that, and that's out of Harlem. My mother brought me home to Harlem, born and raised in Harlem. And when I tell people that, they go, "Really?" I don't know what they think people who were born and raised in Harlem are supposed to be like. When I went to modeling school, I went to private school. I said, we all did all the things that everybody else does, you
Yeah,
know,
well, I mean, it depends on the person, but they have a very
limited view.
well, it's what they saw, what was depicted on television or in the
Yes.
news.
Yes,
That's
exactly. And
that's
then and that's the whole thing. It's negating that. It's negating it's I can see, when I travel, when I was traveling a lot. I travel, and you know how I travel. I have all my bags
yes.
and my stuff. And I would sit down in the first class thing there. And you go in, and there it's really lovely, and there would some a family would come, and there would be children in the family, and every once in a while I'd get a child that would stare at me and then look up at their parents, like as to say, "Now she doesn't look like what you've been telling me these people are supposed to look like."
Right.
you know and they just stare, and I thought, and I could tell, and then I just look at the parent and go, "You've been telling us, you've been talking about a stereotype, but we're not monolithic. We're not all one thing, you know."
No.
It's a life experience, and I live it every single day. Every single day. I'm not what people expect me to be, um, uh, and some of the things that to be very frank, some of the scripts that I can't even say. I don't even know how to say those things. I said, "Well, who do you hear that talks like this? Because I can't make this come out of my mouth right." I don't know what it is. It will always be wonderful talking to you, Larry. I mean, I knew we could talk forever and ever about so many different things, and you are so wonderful and understanding about all different kinds of people, and always have been. And so, thank you so very much for coming on Lenny Godfrey Straight No Chaser, and then afterwards here in my after show afterthoughts. Um, and everyone, I'll see you on the radio, and I'll see you at the next episode. Okay, bye, Larry.
Bye, Lynnie. Thank you.